Welcome to Bismarck Insights with Mayor Mike Schmitz, a transparent and engaging conversational dive into meaningful topics impacting local government in Bismarck, North Dakota. Bismarck Insights is dedicated to removing barriers between the city of Bismarck and the citizens we serve every day.
Welcome, this is Bismarck Insights and I'm Bismarck Mayor Mike Schmitz. Today we're going to take a focus on a community activity, event, service need that is very important to our community, and we have with us Jim Barnhardt from the Dream Center. Jim,
morning,
welcome,
Mayor.
And thank you for being with me, but let's get a little background on you and really what caused you to create this facility and opportunity, I guess, to provide service to the community of the Dream Center.
Okay, well, going back a long ways back, I grew up in a low-income household and have an affinity for people who are maybe a little bit below the radar, so to speak. And it was May 29th of 2016 when God gave me a vision for a meal ministry surrounded with free services to help those in need. And I've just been following that vision ever since.
So that's almost 10 years ago now. What's been the process? What did you create from that, I'll call, vision?
Okay. Well, the first year was lots of meetings in the community, just trying to find a place, if you will. And that was 2016, going into 2017. Got hooked up with The Banquet, which is a meal ministry surrounded with just community, lots of community involved with that. It was at Trinity Lutheran at the time. They had just gone from 1 day a week to 2 days a week. And got started with them, first as a volunteer, then as a board member, then as board chairman finally, and just continued walking things out. Visited the Dream Center in Los Angeles in March of 2019, based on a conversation that I had with a gentleman here in Bismarck describing the vision to him, and he said, "That's a Dream Center, I've been there." So, being as smart as I am, I went home and Googled it, what's a Dream Center? And, found out, yes, that was very much the mission that we wanted to be on. So we're sanctioned in March of 2019. And then in June of 2019, we started our very first Adopt-A-Blocks at Jeanette Myrie School and South Central High School, based on input from Bismarck Public Schools, as well as Great Plains Food Bank as far as areas of highest need in the community.
Sure. And then that began to lead to what is developed over that period of time, and now there's a building and services rendered out of there around a lot of meals, obviously, but I think other things are happening there as well. I've been there for a few events, but let's talk about how you got to pick the location and what went into getting the building up and going and the enhanced meal service.
Okay, sure.
And that's a lot, I know.
Okay, well, the parameters were for a location south of Main Street and in between Washington Street and Airport Road. So we went on a property search, actually put in offers on a few properties, nothing materialized. Finally, looking at the lot that we're at now, 1805 Park Avenue, that was for sale. The price was a little bit much, so we just kind of let it go. And one day it came up on a Pfeiffer land auction. And so I registered for the auction and ended up getting the lot for about half the price. And I'm like, well, thank you, God, that's probably good confirmation. Yep. So we moved on from there. That was in 2021, late 2020. 2021, we started construction in May of the Dream Center. It's 24,300 feet, and completed construction in April of 2022.
And to get all that going, there had to be some efforts to raise some funds. This is not just put up with nothing. And so what's that been like? I mean, I know part of the story, but I don't know what the citizens do.
Well, the fundraising part of it, we were out there on the stump, so to speak. The Banquet, which was a separate entity at that point, they were doing their own fund drive for the kitchen. That was roughly $450,000 for the commercial kitchen there at the Dream Center. And Otto Bremer and the Leach Foundation gave us a really nice boost on that one, Bismarck Community Foundation. Then we were still short the cash, so to speak, so I decided to sell the house.
Wow.
So yes, we sold the house and used that as part of the down payment for the Dream Center. We were involved with First International Bank, Lewis and Clark Development, and the Bank of North Dakota as far as financing, and very happy with the package that we were able to put together.
Well, it's quite a commitment from you, and I appreciate that. And the community, I'm sure, does too. So let's talk about some of the people that you're seeing that you're able to serve, certainly with the banquet component. That's the biggest thing I think that maybe is known to the community, but I know there are other services that are provided, but who are we serving and how are they getting to you? And you know, you're only part of this whole service delivery for the individuals who are in need.
Mm-hmm. Well, we primarily cater to the low-income community. We'll take people who are, you know, coming out of the homeless community, obviously, for meals and so forth, but we're really all about touching the low income in the community and keeping them from becoming homeless. Once, especially a family, once they become homeless, it's just a real long path to bring them back out of homelessness. Mm-hmm. So we very much concentrate on that, you know, with the meals, with the groceries, and then we surround that with free services to help them get to a little bit better place in life.
So what are the hours?
Okay, we do breakfast weekdays from 7 to 9. At breakfast, we also pass out sack lunches. The sack lunch program has grown quite a bit. Typically about 700 sack lunches a week were being passed out. But then when the United Way shelter ran out of funding to stay open on the weekends, we pitched in a little bit and were able to supply sack lunches on the weekends as well. So now we're distributing an extra 100 or so sack lunches each of the 2 weekend days, Saturdays and Sundays.
And are those sack lunches going to kids or adults or both, or is there really not a requirement to anything?
Both. You know, my belief has always been if somebody is hungry, we just feed them. You know, and it's not always the hunger part of the component. You know, sometimes it's the community. We all need to be a part of something. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there who, you know, are lonely. Mm-hmm. You know, especially our senior community, or the single mom or single dad who needs somebody to commune with, to eat with. So they come to the Dream Center as well. As far as the sack lunches, we're very open on that. You know, anyone who's looking for a lunch gets one, whether it's during breakfast or whether they walk up to the door during the day. You know, the typical day will have anywhere from 5 to 30 sack lunches passed out to people just dropping in.
And so I apologize, I'm going to make sure I covered it, but so there's breakfast and the sack lunches. Is there evening meal as well?
Yes, there's an evening meal. That's the original banquet, which has expanded from 1 day a week when it was at Trinity. Then we took them to 2 days a week there, and 3, and finally 4. And at the Dream Center now we're 7 days a week, so we go 5:30 to 7 weekdays and noon to 1 on Saturdays and Sundays.
Again, very much needed. We know that there's a lot of individuals in our community that struggle at times, and as you stated, that if we can keep them from getting to the point of being homeless, that's a win, or at least bridge that gap if there's a struggle because they lost a job or whatever the case may be. Beyond that, what other services are you able to provide or are being provided through the Dream Center facility? It may not be done by you, but maybe another entity.
Okay. Originally, when the Dream Center opened, we were looking at defraying some of the expenses by renting out space for meetings and events. We opened in April of 2022. By July of 22, Doreen Quist, our administrative director, approached me and she said, "Jim, we're getting a lot of requests from nonprofits to use our space." We were offering the space to them at no charge. And so Doreen and I put our heads together and agreed to not lease space out to anyone for pay, so to speak, but nonprofits would be invited in at no charge. And that approach has really worked out well We have Celebrate Recovery that meets there every Friday night. We have Women's AA Step Study on Saturdays. AARP Tax Prep did almost 1,200 free tax returns for low-income households this year in our event center.
Well, that's wonderful. I know there's been other community-type meetings there too, which may have been sponsored by one of the non-for-profits, or I know the city has been there as part of those participants too, especially talking about the needs in the community around individuals who are struggling with homelessness or struggling with food needs or services to be able to get to whatever healthcare need there might be. That's a great piece. Are there some stories around some of those events that you've seen in your building that you feel has created some success for individuals or entities?
Well, we've been very successful with our community events. We do a Christmas celebration that's been drawing about 1,000 people to the facility. So we have, the gentleman making balloons. We have healthcare entities that have tables there. We have people there passing out, caps and gloves and those types of things. We have people that come in and take people into free dental. Lots of different things going on like that. There's a gentleman that I'll mention. His name is Arnold. He came out of the prison system. He was originally from California. He, in fact, still had a family in the Sacramento area. And he came to the Dream Center after he was released from prison. He was confined to North Dakota. And he started out as a volunteer and was a good volunteer as far as carrying things out during our Adopt-A-Block program, grocery distribution. And then he got a little bit more involved with different things around the building. And in the end, when he left about 6 months later, he was on his way back to Sacramento to look into starting a meal ministry.
Well, that is a success story because that turned his life to something what it wasn't before, probably.
Well, and
that that's what you are about.
Right now, I've got a request on my desk to write a letter for him to have his parole changed so that he's totally free to do what he needs to do to get that program started, which is awesome. That's
great. So let's talk about how the Dream Center is engaging with the community and how the community can engage with the Dream Center and the services you're providing from a volunteer standpoint. What are you looking for? Who are the partners you want to be, you may be partnering with is probably a better way to say it, within the community, because there are a lot of entities trying to provide some portion of the services.
Yes. We are definitely collaborators. We have not talked about our Adopt-A-Block program yet. The Adopt-A-Block program is probably the biggest thing that we do. It is the biggest thing that we do. It's our grocery distribution. Each morning we go out to area grocery stores and do pickups of donated products that are at the sell-by date, if you will, or surplus. And then we also collaborate with Great Plains Food Bank as far as ordering and so forth. And then we bring that product in and do our grocery distribution. We do grocery distribution 6 days a week at the Dream Center, and then we still have 2 Adopt-A-Block remote locations, one in Mandan on Tuesday nights at First Baptist, and then Thursday nights at New Song Church. We engage a lot of households there. It's usually 800 to 1,000 households a week, and we do go through a lot of volunteers with that program.
So let's talk, what is the concept of the Adopt-A-Block program? Because are you going out to the blocks, or are they somehow coming to you and there's some geographic definition or not?
Originally there was. Okay. We started out with the 2 Adopt-A-Block locations at Jeanette Myrie and South Central High School in 2019. When COVID came along in 2020, I collaborated with Great Plains Food Bank and Bismarck Public Schools as far as site selection. Then we moved to 6 locations, remote locations in the community. When the Dream Center opened in 2022, I brought the South Side Adopt-A-Blocks back to the Dream Center, and checked with the social workers at the schools, and they said it seemed to be working. We were getting about twice the participation at the Dream Center as we were at the remote locations. Probably because people standing outside picking up groceries when it's minus 20 isn't real comfortable.
Sure.
You know, whereas our 70 degrees at the Dream Center is a lot more appealing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's called the Adopt a Block program because that's how it started, but there's more people coming to your facility than you're actually going out delivering groceries. Is that correct then?
That is correct. Now, one of the things that we just recently started, in fact, we had our very first one last week Thursday, was our block parties. So, you know, last week Thursday we had somebody there making balloons. We had the Bismarck Fire Department there with a fire truck. We had kids doing chalk drawings out on the sidewalk, face painting, those types of things, and just something to engage the community. But the original idea behind the Adopt a Block program was to just engage the community, taking them to a little bit better place, whether it's, you know, the meals, the groceries, or going out and doing other functions, which that's down the road for the Dream Center as far as community, working more out in the community on some of these projects.
Sure. So how does someone get involved to help you? We need volunteers all the time.
Yes,
right?
Yes, we do. We have about 100 regular volunteers who are insured by the Dream Center, and then we have hundreds more that come and go. They can call the Dream Center office at 955-2150, or they can go to our website, dreamcenterbismarck.org, and sign up there.
And what kind of activities do they get to participate when they do volunteer?
Gosh, you know, we have breakfast, we have the SAC lunch program, we have the Adopt a Block program, we have the banquet, the main meal of the day. We have front desk people who man that desk every day. We have people who pick up trash outside the facility and in the neighborhood. We try to be good stewards in the neighborhood. We have people that come and just sort things out when the trucks come in from the Adopt a Block.
So, thinking of your facility, and I know where it's located, and the geographic positioning of that happens to be in an area, I think, where there is a lot of individuals who are in need and probably homeless as well. Do you have an opportunity, or is there time during the day or not, that individuals can get a little shelter besides just getting a meal, or is that not really in your wheelhouse?
Truly, that's not really in our wheelhouse. You know, we do the breakfast and then the dinner in the evening, as well as our Adopt a Block grocery distribution. Other than that, the building is mostly closed up. We really try to cater to families and seniors, and we just try to keep a safe atmosphere for everyone.
Sure, and I'm just trying to make sure we understand what's there and how that functions, because not everybody understands that, I think. And so how does it work with the individuals? Most of them may have a place that they're kind of staying most of the time, but like they're coming and going. Do we see a lot of transient people who are moving from space to space to space in the community, and how is that a struggle, or maybe we can find a way to help those people?
I think United Way and Ministry on the Margins both do a really good job as far as housing people, who are in need of shelter. There are people that choose not to go to either one of those two facilities, and they're just out on the streets, and you feel bad for them, but there are places available. Okay, if it's raining, a morning like this morning, a little bit damp outside, we allow people to linger a little bit more.
Sure.
We pass out the temporary rain suits, if you will, so that they aren't soaking wet. But we're truly about the low income and not the homeless.
So, to follow up then on that, how are people able to? How are you seeing people are able to get to your facility to get that meal service? Are they are they having to walk a lot? I mean, because I have a whole transit-related issue that we're trying to find better solutions for in the city. I think we're making some progress, or we will slowly as we enhance the availability of that. But do you see it? Is it a transit walking, or are they able to get there some other method besides walking? And this is more of a community thing. I realize it's not Dream Center, but it's a community thing for me.
Over the colder months, we pass out an awful lot of bus passes, so people can get to us, by riding the transit, the CAT.
Yep.
And so that works pretty well for a lot of people. As far as the grocery distribution and the actual meals, families, seniors, we have a lot of ride sharing that goes on.
Okay.
For our grocery distribution, we have people that pick up for anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5 households at a time. We get the required information. It goes into a central database with Feeding America, so it's all on the up and up, so to speak.
Yep. And as far as the route for the Bismarck Transit or the CAT bus, is it fairly close to you? Does it come close enough so someone when they walk, they're not walking miles?
Actually, it does. We talked to Deidre over at the CAT, and this was early on, and we were able to get the bus route not really changed, but they do a stop right at the top of the hill within about less than a block from the Dream Center. So it's very convenient for people to get to us.
Good, and my point for that is to try to help people understand that we do have the Bismarck Transit opportunity that can get them relatively close to your facility, which is a huge thing, especially for these individuals who are struggling with income dependency issues or not having enough income to actually own their own car maybe, or whatever the case may be. There is a route for them to get there on a relatively inexpensive basis, and if you're handing out vouchers, it's probably free in some cases.
The community has been really good on that. We're members of the Missouri Valley Coalition for Homeless People, and there were some grants that were available, so we were picking up some bus passes from them. We've got a couple of the clubs and individuals who have purchased bus passes for us to distribute as well. So
I believe that just recently you've had some potential changes maybe in your kitchen staffing. Is there something we can help get out to the public to help you out?
Okay. Well, yes. We had Shayna Ng, who had been with us for a couple of years now. She recently passed away at the age of 42. And that left a real hole, not only, in the banquet meal ministry, but also in our hearts. She was, we have a staff that's family at the Dream Center. Most of the people that come to the Dream Center, they are our extended family, if you will. So she passed, and we just really miss her. But Aaron Bank, who he was Shayna's significant other. He has taken over kitchen duties, and Chef Aaron has traveled the country, so to speak. I know he's done at least 7 Masters golf tournaments.
Oh, wow.
So very high-end chef who can really put a lot of things together. The other night we had a blueberry barbecue. Jim was able to taste the sauce early on. Jim missed out on the ribs because they were gone by the time I got there.
So you filled the hole, which was a hole, at the Dream Center, but obviously losing a person at a very young age, that's I feel for the family.
Absolutely.
That's difficult. But so are there things though that Chef Aaron needs that we could help, the community could find a way to be of outreach for him or for you? Or are you feeling like you've got the whole kind of put back together?
Yeah, I believe we do have the hole filled. Chef Aaron is doing a really good job with that. Mickey, his assistant, she's been with us now for about a year. She's doing great. She comes to us with a lot of restaurant experience. And as far as needs, volunteers, we're almost always in need of volunteers for the banquet meal. Typically volunteers start coming at 1 o'clock, and then we have a second group that comes somewhere between 4 and 5, depending on what's being prepared. Always looking for community meal sponsors. We sell sponsorships to help support the banquet meal.
Okay. So we talked about how people can get involved, and maybe you just say that again, how they can reach you so we make sure they know.
Okay. As far as reaching us, they can give us a call at 955-2150, or they can go to our website, dreamcenterbismarck.org, and sign up there to volunteer.
Okay.
Or to sponsor.
Perfect. And so let's kind of wrap up with what are some challenges you see for the future, and challenges always bring opportunities. And maybe it's in reverse sometimes, but what are those things that you see for the Dream Center and for the community as we try to serve this population?
The biggest challenge is that we underbuilt. About 6 months into it, I realized that our facility wasn't going to meet the demand, okay? Especially our parking lot. We have a parking lot that's set up for 62 cars, and sometimes we have up to 300 cars. So it definitely overflows. So we're looking at, how we can alleviate the parking issue. As far as the product that's going out the door, there we're typically in pretty good shape. Donations are always appreciated as far as cash or product donations, always looking for that. As far as opportunities, we're real collaborators in the community. Actually, just last week we were recognized by the North Dakota Association of Nonprofits for our partnering in the community. We received a statewide award for that. Very proud of that. As far as it's our volunteers that get it done. Volunteers, our staff is small. We have 8 people on staff. I'm a full-time volunteer myself. So still,
Yeah.
but that's really okay. But it's establishing more partnerships that help the people that come for the meals. The concept of the Dream Center is really pretty simple. It's meals and groceries, bringing people to the facility that way. There's hardly ever an event that goes by where there's not food of some sort. So we bring people in that way, and then surround it with free services to help them if they need or want those free services.
Sure. And food, I think, always brings people to network and socialize, even in our own homes, right?
Absolutely.
So as we look to the future and those opportunities and challenges, are there any partners or gaps in partners that for you that you see are out there, and maybe we can try to encourage someone to look at how they can partner with you?
Yes, we're working on healthcare partners. We would like to have some healthcare checkups, at the Dream Center, partly based on, the transportation is always a challenge. Right. So whether it's nursing students or an actual doctor that could come down and work with us, at least, the basics.
Yep.
We do have an entity right now that's talking about doing something as far as testing for diabetes.
Okay.
Things like that are always welcome. So often the low income, the health is kind of a secondary thing. I'll put off going to the dentist or going to the doctor as long as possible because I don't know if my insurance will cover it, or maybe I don't even have any insurance.
Right. Yeah, it becomes, even though it's the need, it's not the primary need or the moment of need anyway for them. And so, yeah, you're right. I think that does become the forgotten, taking care of myself component. So, well, Jim, thank you for sharing with me today and for sharing with the citizens of Bismarck and City of Bismarck, City of Mandan. Remember this opportunity to provide service in the Dream Center, and we do have individuals who do need some support from a food intake standpoint, and keep the Dream Center in your mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for watching Bismarck Insights with Mayor Mike Schmitz. If you have specific topics or questions you'd like addressed in future episodes, email mschmitz@bismarcknd.gov. Or call the City of Bismarck at 701-355-1300. To learn more about the City of Bismarck, visit bismarcknd.gov or follow us on a variety of social media channels by searching BismarckND.gov. Bismarck Insights is a collaboration between Dakota Media Access and the City of Bismarck. You may find Bismarck Insights episodes on Government Access Channels 2 and 602, as well as on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV devices, on Radio Access 102.5 FM, and on demand at freetv.org.